Hi, my name is Amy McCabe, and welcome to this segment of Listen and Learn.
My name is Carrie Schaefer. I'm a trumpet player down in Houston. I'm thrilled to be joining Amy today in this presentation for you.
So this class is for the 99% of you who have maybe lost more auditions and competitions than you've won. And maybe this is for those of you who are dealing with performance anxiety, or you've lost your way with music making, or maybe you've just started taking longer to emotionally get over a quote bad performance, or maybe you have students who struggle with this. The list could go on. I'm so happy to be sharing this spot with Carrie today, whom I've admired for years since we were at Northwestern together. Years later, we are now subject matter experts in finding your resilience beyond your trumpet resume. Personally, before grad school at Northwestern, I had worked in the show Blast that was on Broadway for about 3 years, and I was really excited to learn more about playing in orchestras, but I didn't have a lot of experience taking auditions or being in the real orchestral world. So when I got to Northwestern as a grad student, I was really excited, but I totally felt like a fish out of water. Balancing that with financial worries and my own self-esteem related to being able to make it in this world, especially after I got into 0 summer festivals after my first year there and was working a summer job that I quite frankly hated. For me, it was no surprise that I ended up with some serious health issues after that first year. And a few months later, I was diagnosed with a type of cancer that was not reactive to chemo or radiation. And so I was kind of forced to look deeper under the hood because I had to go about healing in a different way. For me, my doors were really unlocked when I started to study and practice something called energy work, which sounds kind of woo-woo to some, but it's really just a wonderful blend of ancient wisdom and some more modern Western psychological techniques. It's a really fun, supercharged way to learn the interconnectedness of your mind, body, and emotions, and your spirit, and how we all connect with the world around us. I think the modern world is kind of getting closer to remembering all of these truths as they're consistently reaffirming the mind-body connection in different tests, but we're still kind of in this returning. Re-examining all of my relationships, including trumpet, in this multidimensional light has really helped me to return to the highest degree of health and functioning. So here are some quick identifying factors that I had to learn in my healing path, and maybe some starting points for reflection for all of you on how to be resilient beyond the resume. So number 1, constantly re-examine your why. Why are you taking an audition? Is it for bragging rights, or is it to really be able to play Mahler with other people? Remember to always reconnect with your authentic joy for music making. Number 2, be brave in examining unresolved past or current trauma. This should probably happen with a professional counselor or therapist of sorts. It could be the loss of a person in your life or some other tragic event, but forgiveness of yourself and others and life, God, universe, for creating the situation is of the utmost importance. Number 3, get familiar with the present moment. Witness that critical voice in your head. Are you using that negative voice as a motivation to practice or perform? And start exploring breath work and meditation. There's 1,000 different apps out there. A lot of them are really user-friendly and easy to use. 10% Happier and Calm are a couple of my favorites. Number 4, stop over-identification with your instrument. What does this mean? Well, if you notice yourself overly relying on comments or compliments, or that foot shuffle after a hard lick from people post-performance, or comments on social media, that might be a sign that you're over-identifying with your instrument. Number 5, stop identifying your technical hangups with hangups in you. Meaning if my range is limited, that does not equal you being limited. Approach the trumpet with non-critical, childlike curiosity. Thank you, Jeff Strong, for that one. Number 6, start to notice stress symptoms in your body and try to name them and claim them. If you have a tight throat, that could be some sadness or inability to communicate something. Constricted chest might mean anxiety, you're living in the future. Just start noticing. Number 7, find a hobby or interest outside of music. Number 8, notice when you're numbing. If it's with food or drugs or alcohol, technology can be a numbing source now. Number 9, check out your boundaries and your self-care. Be okay saying yes to things, but also be okay saying no. No more people pleasing. Take the time to take care of your body. Notice when you're over practicing and not resting. Just trust in what you need. And last but not least, this is a tough one, but start to examine your relationship with shame in your life in all areas. Empathy and self-compassion are the antidotes to that. So off to you, Carrie.
I love that, Amy. Thank you for that. And I just love this concept of bringing resilience, you know, like behind the resume, because really, I mean, when I look at my resume, you know, you have kind of what's happening on paper and you have what's really happening in real life. I have, you know, and on my resume, I have, you know, Boston University as a freshman, then went to Northwestern, got into the Colburn School, went to the New World Symphony, played with the Verbier Orchestra, and then spent 4 years in the St. Louis Symphony and 2 seasons with the Houston Symphony. And of course, that's what everything looks like on paper. However, I've identified here kind of a list of things that I kind of started noticing as my career was climbing about like what was really actually happening in my life. The first thing here I've acknowledged is that I really started taking all failures like extremely personally. And this could be even from like oh my gosh, I lost the audition, so I'm like a, you know, I'm not worth anything, to even the small failures, such as like I played an open E and it was a little bit flat and it should have been 1 and 2. It kind of got all intertwined. I really wanted everyone to see me as this rock solid performer, but there was actually quite a lot happening internally. The second thing I really noticed is just developing some pretty self-destructive thought patterns. And I'll go into that a little bit as I continue. And then the third, probably most defining characteristic was really isolation. There was a lot of, it just kind of became a default for me. I was almost like too afraid to break character, if that makes any sense, about what was really going on in my life. And actually really what was going on in my life was that I was abusing alcohol. It really turned into a pretty serious coping mechanism for me. And all of this kind of hit the fan with my resignation from the Houston Symphony. And there's much to be said about that, but it was really the lowest part of my career, hands down. And so since then, being in recovery, I've been sober for 2 years and 3 months, and I basically just kind of formed a list here of the things that I have learned in recovery. That's very, very much a daily practice. So like recovery is resilience, right? I mean, it's kind of me still making the choice to get up every day and to fulfill these areas in my life that were so severely kind of lacking when I was really struggling with addiction. So the first thing I've identified here is just learning from your mistakes. One of the saddest parts about addiction is that you are literally repeating the same destructive mistake that you are seeking to get rid of. And I really found myself very much stuck in that cycle. So it's been such a joy to be able to have the bravery to go out and make a mistake and then really say like, wait a minute, I can learn from this because I was coming from it from a very pure of intention place. Number 2, I found just developing self-awareness. So kind of by very frequently throughout the day, I'll ask myself like, what am I feeling? Did I have a plan for the day? Have I had enough water? Is my diet balanced? What am I thinking? Am I kind of very stuck in my head at this moment? Which brings me to number 3, I started studying cognitive behavioral therapy. And I was really, really just shook by how quickly I can change my mood by changing the thoughts that I'm thinking. And there's much to be said about that type of therapy, but and I'll give you a quick distortion here. I mean, like think of all or nothing thinking. That's what the distortion is called. And it's kind of when you approach situations from like either you're 100% perfect or you're 100% a failure, and there's like no gray matter in there. I found myself kind of when I'm able to catch these distortions, like I'll catch them and be like, wait a minute, I've got you, because you know, like it's a very kind of powerful experience, very practical as well. I mean, like very immediate sort of changes in your mood from discovering these distortions. Number 4, I have the implementing changes. So I built habits physically, mentally, and emotionally to cover my bases. Physically, I really got into lifting weights. I became a big CrossFit fan. I do a lot of walking with my dog. Mental, I really make it a practice to meditate, which you know, doesn't even matter if you're a beginner. That's kind of even the point is, you know, begin again. Just like at any time during the day, you can do so. And emotionally, just kind of also just checking in, and again, how am I feeling? And if it's feeling, it might be because of a thought, and I can quickly address that. I also have here building on your abilities. I know, Amy, that you know, discovering your strengths and weaknesses. You know, the first thing I think of is actually Barbara Butler with that, is that I would leave lessons actually being like, wow, I'm proud of my weaknesses, and I actually, like, I would like to go out and get them. And I'm so thankful for, like, in recovery, it's kind of the same thing. I don't by any means, I mean, you know, there are, like, I have strengths and I have weaknesses just like everyone else. And so kind of discovering what those are for me has been very rewarding. I also have, like, just understanding and practicing gratitude and being thankful for what you actually already have, and not always like chasing after the next shiny thing. Like you know, like there's so much in my life that I am just immensely grateful for. Having my health back, my friends back, and, you know, so just like all these things that we already have. And then I think, like, one of the biggest things is just being kind to yourself. And this is a practice, that I've really had to practice, and like forgiving past mistakes, not only of others, but for yourself. I mean, it's real. I mean, it's like it's a demanding process, but I'm so proud kind of the just, and again, these all comes from very little increments of time. Like, it's just like they kind of add up. And then, building a support system. Also very important. People who I'm surrounded with now, they're very well aware of my past substance abuse and past kind of cycles of isolation, and they keep me in check, and they keep me, you know, we check in very often, and it's just so important to be thoroughly honest. And you know, like, honest about your imperfections, like lead with those. Sometimes I think it's just a very rewarding experience actually for both parties to, you know, to just be able to be real and to open up about the things that matter. And the last thing that I have listed here is just identifying what I have control over and what I don't have control over. And I think of, you know, the many performance situations where I kind of fell in a trap of thinking that I would have control over the conductor or having control over something, but, you know, but really when it comes down to it, I think, you know, we have control over ourselves. We can control our own actions and our thoughts and our intentions, right? And there are many things kind of out in the world that we don't really have a lot of control over, and it's important to stick with, to internally just be aware of that.
Yeah. Thank you, Carrie. That was so incredibly inspiring. It's been really nice to see how our paths have sort of intertwined, and how there's so much similarity between both of our healing journeys. And, you know, sometimes it takes having these rock bottom moments to learn all these things, but it really doesn't have to. You can get out ahead of it. I'm so grateful for the generosity to ITG to letting us have this conversation, and we're looking forward to reaching out to the greater music community in addition to trumpet players to help us expand this conversation. Feel free to reach out to either of us if you have any questions.
Perfectly said. Thank you, Amy. It was really a pleasure to collaborate with you on this one. And thank you, I guess, also to ITG. Thank you. And we'll see you soon. Be safe.